the question of the pupil. You always present your teaching or your ideas within a specific, it seems to me, structure or formula. You say the question of the pupil. There is a pause. And then a question is very exactly or precisely formulated and expressed. Then there is a pause. Then you say, the teacher replies. And then there is a pause. And then there is an answer to that question. Now you appear to have suggested, it seems to me you are suggesting that there is a significance to this formula. Could you explain to us what that is? What is the significance of this formulation, this method of presenting your teaching? The teacher replies. I remember being a little bit shocked once in hearing, I don't have a TV, but I was a little bit shocked about hearing or reading in the newspaper something about the most stupid answers to questions, quiz questions or something like this, TV questions. People were asked in TV quizzes questions, and this was speaking about the most stupid answers that people could give. And I was shocked at one of these because the question that was asked was what language did the Romans in the Roman Empire speak? So what language did the Romans speak in? And the lady there was clearly a very intelligent woman. I can judge that by her answer. She said they spoke Greek. And this was put down as one of the most stupid answers that could possibly be, because the TV show and all those experts on the TV show, chuckling into their gin and tonics, claimed that the Roman Empire spoke Latin. That the Romans in the Roman Empire spoke Latin. And I was shocked by this, I must say, because of course the Roman Empire spoke Greek. They spoke Greek. Latin was a written language, a very simple and extraordinarily logical language that was a written language. And reports were written in this, official reports were written in Latin because it was so simple and logical. There was no ambiguity in this. And signs or carvings on rocks or sayings or whatever were in Latin, but this was a written language in the same way as, for example, when I was young and I had a British passport, it was written in French because French was the diplomatic language. But the fact that my passport was written in French doesn't mean, or didn't mean, that the whole of the United Kingdom spoke French. So the question, what language did the Romans speak? This lady very intelligently replied, they spoke Greek. Which is correct. No Roman, certainly in the Western Empire, spoke Latin. It was not a spoken language. It was a logical written language for unambiguous, simple reports. Now, an example of this is, of course, the Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius. What is the most popular book? Which book has been the most sold? How many copies have been sold? What's the most popular book? And most people would say that it's the Bible. I don't think it is. I have a suspicion it's actually a book by Marcus Aurelius, the Emperor of Rome, a Roman Emperor, entitled Meditations. Now, Marcus Aurelius didn't call his book Meditations. what Marcus Aurelius, the emperor of Rome, did when he was out on his campaigns in the evening, each evening, he would write his diary. And he would write it in Greek, because he spoke Greek. The Romans spoke Greek. And he wrote in his diary a formula every night. Started off his diary with a formula, a written phrase or sentence. And he wrote, I, Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, am writing this to myself. And then he would write his diary, what had happened during that day, his meditations, as it were, as they were published. And he wrote it in Greek. Now you've asked me a question and you'll be puzzled by my oblique answer. But it is this idea that there is a way of formulating, structuring what we are going to say, what we are saying, how we present ourselves outside. Even if we're presenting ourselves outwardly in the form of a diary, to ourselves, I, Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, am writing this to myself. And then this opened up, shall we say, the mind of the Emperor of Rome, Marcus Aurelius, to write what he wished to write. And the reader receives it in a particular way because of this formulation. Or in a sense, because of the way that Marcus Aurelius, the Emperor of Rome, was able to express himself because of this formulation. So it's very important how we present outwardly ourselves. And we can do it in different ways, and each way we do it opens up a different aspect of our own psychology so that we can express ourselves from that particular aspect. So in my teaching, the very elementary, as you pointed out, way that I present my teaching is in this formula, the question of the pupil. And then it's necessary to express very exactly what outwardly what that question is. And then I say the teacher applies. And of course this opens up a completely different area of our psychology, that of the teacher. The teacher applies. And then the teacher, this part of our psychology, is able to answer that question in extraordinary ways, in surprising ways. We surpass ourselves in answering our own questions because of this formulation. Now, part of the reason for this, if I go into technical details, is because the ordinary man or woman in the street does not have this capacity, shall we say, the capacity to ask questions and to then answer those questions. The ordinary man or woman in the street is simply parroting their own inner monologue. They are talking to themselves internally. And so they reproduce that inner monologue outwardly, as if that is going to have some significance or is going to be of interest to other people. We can all encounter people like this who do this endlessly. Whatever comes into their head, that is what is manifested outwardly. Now, the significance, part of the significance at least, of the formulation that I have imposed upon the situation is that at least we are changing this inner monologue into a dialogue, the question of the pupil. So very precise questions have to come from what we refer to there internally as the pupil. We are saying this out loud So we are manifesting outwardly what is inside. But we are equally making sure that what we manifest outwardly is very precise and comes from particular locations, as it were, inside of us. So the pupil is a certain location or a certain character or a certain personality in us. And the pupil has to present that question in a very exact way, outwardly. And then we have the teacher replies. So this is a different location in us, a different person, a different character, a different experience, a different psychology. And what I'm saying to you, and in answer to your question, I was saying that the teacher, when we use this formulation, surpasses us. We surprise ourselves with our answers, with the precision, with the exactitude, with the knowledge that we have, with the understanding that we have. We get some surprises, a lot of surprises, perhaps in the same way as Marcus Aurelius, by starting his diary each evening with this formulation of his. I, Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, am writing this to myself. And only then does he actually write his, in inverted commas, meditations. And this is the best-selling book in the whole history of mankind. So he's amassed quite a fortune already. Almost as much, perhaps, as J.K. Rowling. Who knows?